Doctor, how many autopsies have you performed in your professional career?
At this point, more than 1,200.
When the person is brought to you, are they usually clothed?
It depends on the circumstances. If the person comes directly from their residence, they may or may not be clothed. If the person comes from a hospital where they went first for treatment, many times the person is unclothed. They may be wearing a hospital gown, but in most cases that clothing has already been removed.
If that clothing has already been processed, is it common that it would be brought to you for inspection?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to the point.
Is clothing that is not accompanying the person's body commonly brought to you for observation?
Objection, Your Honor.
So let's move on. Or ask it.
You were asked questions about your opinions relative to spots in the organs of Mr. O'Keefe, and you were asked about part of your statement in the grand jury. When you provide statements, is it important to have the statement in context to understand it?
Yes.
Is it important to have a complete statement rather than just part of a statement?
Yes.
And when you were asked the question that counsel asked you, do you remember that grand jury testimony you gave?
I remember it was a long time ago.
Okay.
But I do remember most of it.
Do you remember when he read part of your answer? It was in response to a grand juror's question?
Yes.
And he read part to you, right, I understand your question, and my answer is that I don't know, but given the environment, so if the injuries had been sustained in a different environment where the temperature wasn't that low, then there might have been an alternative explanation for those gastric and pancreatic hemorrhages. Do you remember that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The doctor can answer that question.
Do you remember Attorney Alisi read you that part of your statement?
Yes.
Do you remember that you had more to that statement that was left off when he confronted you with it?
I'm sure there's more to this thing.
To complete your statement, you said, but in the whole context, I believe that those are signs of hypothermia and not caused. Do you remember that completion to your statement?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. You can show her the statement.
Okay. I can approach. Ask you to take a look at part of your grand jury testimony. Do you remember Attorney Alisi reading part of your answer back?
Objection, Your Honor.
So I'll strike that. Have the witness look at it and go from there.
Were you asked about your entire answer or just part of it?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Did you read the rest of the answer that you weren't given when it was read to you?
Objection, Your Honor.
So this is phrased as refreshing recollection, so follow it appropriately.
Do you now remember there was more to your answer?
Yes.
Could you share with us the rest of your answer?
Without reading
Objection,
it.
Your Honor.
Without reading it. Turn it over. Turn the paper over, please.
I can take it, Your Honor.
Ask the appropriate questions to her.
Do you remember the part that was left out?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Does it refresh your memory to the rest of your statement to the grand jury?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
After looking at this, does it refresh your memory to the rest of your statement you made to the grand jury?
Yes.
And could you share the rest of your statement with the jury, please?
The rest of the statement was that I have to take those findings in the context which was presented to me. So in the case of this particular case, those hemorrhages, in the context of a body found in the snow, I believe they were due to hypothermia.
Is your answer more complete in context?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You were shown a photograph of two individuals that were in the room at the time of autopsy. Do you remember that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And you were asked about certain names.
Correct.
You said that there would be a log identifying names?
It would be a log, yes.
A log. Do you remember exactly who logged in to that autopsy?
No, I don't remember their names.
May I approach?
Show Mr. Lesson.
It's part of the end of the report. It's in there. Take a look at the You have it.
Your Honor, if we need sidebar to explain, we just need a moment to take a look.
I can move on and we'll come back to it, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan.
You mentioned that Mr. O'Keefe's body temperature was a little under 81 degrees when he was brought to the hospital.
Yes, that's what the hospital records stated.
And again, a normal body temperature is?
98 degrees.
So there was, is it fair to say there was over an 18-degree drop in his body temperature?
Correct.
You shared with us that you generally understood it was a blizzard and cold outside. Do you have any experience on how rapidly a body temperature will drop outside?
The body temperature?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Scope.
No, it's within the scope. Let's see if she's got the basis for it.
The rate that the body loses heat depends on a number of factors. Depends on conditions, weather conditions. It depends on the original temperature of the body, and the higher the gradient between the body temperature and the environmental temperature, the faster the drop will occur.
You were asked if there's any signs of frostbite. There was no type of freezer burns or anything on Mr. O'Keefe's body, was there?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Was there any type of burns on his body that would suggest that he was put in some type of machine or environment where there was cooling, mechanical cooling?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Sustained. Move on, Mr. Brennan.
You were shown a photograph, a chalk, that had spots on them. Do you know where that photograph came from?
I do not.
Do you know who that was from, what person that was from?
No, I do not know the context of that picture.
Do you have any information on the circumstances which led to that condition?
I do not.
Do you have any information about what caused the condition that you saw on that chalk?
I have seen similar pictures in textbooks depicting gastric hemorrhages or Wisniewski spots.
You were asked about your role as a medical examiner, and there were a number of questions about your assessment from a legal perspective.
Yes.
You mentioned that you had information from a police report. How many police reports were you given?
There was a preliminary police report, I believe, the day of the autopsy, and communications with law enforcement in the days and weeks following.
May I approach?
Yes.
Showing you a document. Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a police report on this particular case.
Is that a police report from your file?
Yes.
And that police report, is that the police report that you considered?
Amongst other information, yes.
How many lines is that police report?
11.
What's the date and time of that police report?
This was initiated on January 29th. It says at 1941.
I have this marked for identification, Your Honor.
Okay.
Does it refresh your memory on the people who attended the autopsy?
Yes.
And who were they?
I believe one person was Mr. Keefe and the other one was Mr. Coroner.
Are you part of the criminal investigation team?
No, I am not.
Did you go to the scene and evaluate any evidence?
No, I did not.
Did you do any of your own detective work or investigation in this case?
No, I did not.
So when you were asked questions about your role as the medical examiner in your medical evaluation of Mr. O'Keefe's body, you were also asked whether you considered any part of the legal aspect. Do you remember those questions?
Yes.
You would never, well, let me ask you. You submitted the death certificate on April 14th?
Correct.
I want to talk about some of the things that you may or may not have known about or considered at the time you wrote your death certificate or filed your death certificate. Were you informed or were you aware that before you filed your death certificate, there was information in the investigation that police spoke to a first responder by the name of Timothy Nuttall, who reported that the defendant
I'm going to allow it.
that the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Were you aware of that
I became aware of it at some point.
during your 90-day window?
I believe so.
Were you aware that there was another first responder by the name of McLaughlin who provided information that the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
Yes.
Were you aware of statements made by the defendant, to Miss McCabe, that she said, may have I hit him? Did I hit him?
Objection, Your Honor, may we approach, please, briefly?
Okay. So, jurors, I want to let you know that, like other evidence that was let in previously, this is not coming in for the truth of what's in the statements. It's coming in so that as it goes to Dr. Scordi-Bello's knowledge and state of mind at the time of her report.
Thank you. At the time of your death certificate that you filed, were you informed that a Jennifer McCabe had reported that the defendant said, did I hit him or could I have hit him multiple times?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
I don't believe I knew about Miss McCabe.
Did you learn that Ms. McCabe reported later that the defendant, while speaking to first responders, reported that she had hit him? Did you know that?
I was aware of that information later on.
Were you aware of the investigation regarding alcohol consumption?
Yes.
Were you aware that the police or Massachusetts State Police spoke to other witnesses about their observations that night?
About their...
Their observations?
Yes.
Were you aware of an interview by Trooper Buchanan with firefighter Daniel Whitley on February 7, 2022?
I don't remember.
Were you aware that Mr. Whitley told the police that the defendant had expressed that she had gotten into an argument with the defendant that night?
That was part of the information I was given, yes.
Were you aware of a report from first responder Anthony Flamate about statements made by the defendant to him?
I don't recall that particular first responder, no.
Were you aware of statements provided by Kerry Roberts to the police that the defendant had called her, citing Kerry, John is dead,
Yeah, I was given that information.
and the questions of did I hit him? Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Were you aware of information that troopers had an opportunity to go and speak to the defendant?
Yes.
Were you aware of the statements that she made to the troopers?
Not in detail.
Were you aware that when they spoke to her on January 29th, she informed that she had a broken taillight on her vehicle but did not know how it happened?
Objection, Your Honors.
I'll allow that.
Yes, I was provided with that information.
Were you provided the information that she had never observed John enter the residence?
I believe that was part of the original information, yes.
Were you aware that she informed, relative to the broken right taillight, she didn't know how it happened?
Yes, I was.
Were you aware that members of the Massachusetts State Police obtained John O'Keefe's phone and did a forensic data analysis on it?
I was not aware of that until much, much later.
After you filed your report?
Correct.
Were you aware of location data that was obtained from John O'Keefe's phone before you filed the death certificate?
No, I was not.
Were you aware of healthcare data on John O'Keefe's phone before you filed the death certificate?
No, I was not.
Were you aware of battery temperature data on Mr. O'Keefe's iPhone before you filed your death certificate?
No, I was not.
Were you aware of voice messages left on John O'Keefe's phone from the defendant before you filed your death certificate?
No, I was not.
Were you aware of text messages between the defendant and John O'Keefe before you filed your death certificate?
No.
Were you aware of statements from the defendant to various media outlets before you filed your death certificate?
No, I was not.
Did anybody ever come to you after you filed your death certificate and ask you to change it?
No.
Did anybody ever provide you any of this additional information you weren't aware of at the time, ask you to evaluate it, and then reconsider your finding?
No.
You were asked some questions about impact injuries. In your experience, are most pedestrian collisions where there's injuries to the lower legs either frontal or rear impacts?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow that because I'll allow that.
Most pedestrian fatalities that we see are with impact with the front of the vehicle.
When you gave the perspective that you looked for impact injuries, was that with consideration of your experience that most collisions are frontal impact injuries?
Most collisions involve frontal impact, yes.
How about cases where you had an opportunity to observe people who sustained injuries from being clipped? Not hit, but just being clipped. Is your opinion any different in your experience?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained in that form.
Okay. How about a side swipe injury? Is that different relative to your expectations to lower extremity injuries?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
A bruise on the knee, is that consistent with a side swipe impact?
Could be.
Did you do any type of biomechanical analysis of the any alleged collision in this case?
No, I did not.
Were you asked to?
I'm not qualified to do that.
And so when you talk about injuries from a collision, are you in part speculating about what could happen to somebody?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained in that point.
Are you giving a direct opinion in this case about how the injuries were caused?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You were asked questions about a nose laceration,
Yes,
and you offered that was not consistent with falling backwards on the head alone.
correct,
You were asked if that was consistent with a punch.
correct.
Objection, Your Honor.
That's not the testimony. That's your objection.
That is, Your Honor. There's not a question.
Did you provide an opinion that it could be consistent with a punch?
I did provide that opinion.
Could it be consistent with broken glass?
It's possible.
Could it be consistent with sharp shards from broken plastic?
Possible.
Could it be consistent with first aid?
I'm sorry, what was
Could
it?
it be consistent with first aid treatment?
Anything is possible.
Do you have any first-hand knowledge of how the laceration on the nose happened?
I do not have first-hand knowledge.
Did you know at the time you filed your death certificate that there was plastic pieces of taillight found near Mr. O'Keefe's body around 5:45 p.m. on January 29, 2022?
I do believe some of that information was communicated to us, yes.
Thank you.